Yo, the biatch was like, what? And I was like, later on.
I love this movie.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo!
So, have you ever seen a property so entrenched in a time period that you feel like you need a neck brace after the whiplash you feel? That's how I feel when I watch Scooby-Doo 2002. Now, I'm not sure how popular this opinion is, but I think Scooby-Doo 2002 is leagues better than Scooby-Doo 2. And, I mean, when I look at the Rotten Tomatoes score for both of these movies, no one seems to like either one. But I just kinda think the first is just a more enjoyable experience. And I'm gonna go into why through this little retrospective. I've noticed a trend on my channel where pretty much anything I've reviewed aside from one movie, I think, they've all been sequels. And I kinda like that approach. I really want to look at remakes, sequels, reimaginings, adaptations, things that are alterations on a currently existing property. I feel like that just gives me so much to work from, so much to look at. Like, what aspects of the original did we like, and how are those aspects brought forward? So when it comes to Scooby-Doo 2002, what do we like about the original property? Does the movie reflect this? What's been changed to help it fit within this new medium? Does that help it, or does it hurt it? So I guess I want to start off by talking about some of the earlier incarnations, pre-2002, from I think 1969 up to 2001. Let's talk about that. So with the original show, the formula was simplistic. Monster of the Week, nothing too complex. The characters were equally simplistic. They had their archetypes and they didn't really go further than that. They had their roles, they had their Monster of the Week, that's it. And the animation, well, it was Hanna-Barbera. Don't think I need to say much more than that. But it had charm, and from that charm grew countless iterations. We all probably have a different era of Scooby-Doo that was the foundation for how we view the property. My understanding of Scooby-Doo comes from two iterations. These 4 movies that I'm showing right now, produced after the merger between Time Warner and Turner Broadcast System, contain some of the earliest memories I have of the property. It was the most dark and gritty interpretation of the IP, I would say. It really stands in contrast to most of the other adaptations. It's just, I just love those ones. I mean, so I'd say Zombie Island is the best of the 4. Then I'd say Zombie Island is my favorite, and Alien Invaders I've seen the most. I have a really strong love for these 2. I even like Cyber Chase. Yeah, I know. Just burn down my house right now. Other than that, I'd say the other property that was the foundation for my understanding was What's New Scooby-Doo, but since that comes after Scooby-Doo 2002, I don't really want to throw that into the mix. Maybe in a future video, but not for now. So when I look at many of the iterations, I see a few consistent themes. Hijinks, like a lighter tone. Even in the darker, grittier versions, there's always lighter elements, especially when it comes to, like, the main duo, Shaggy and Scooby. Lighthearted goofs and gaffes, funny chase scenes, sort of a lot of physical comedy, things like that. Another element is intrigue, the sense of mystery, trying to figure out which disgruntled person is the one haunting everybody else, what's the cause, why. And we are figuring out along with the gang, so that's a fun part for the audience. And, well, there is the gang. We all have ones that we're attached to. I feel like a lot of people really like Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby. I mean, it makes sense. They have the most personality. What do Fred and Daphne have? They're very personality-less, if you ask me. They exist as avenues for the story to happen and less as characters themselves, which might be why in other iterations they're often put on the back burner or just kind of dropped sometimes. But let's see how the movie handles these 3 elements. I just feel like those are good ones to focus on. So the gist of the story is that the gang, after one of their usual Monster of the Week type adventures, decides to split up. They're all unhappy in various ways aside from Shaggy and Scooby. Then 2 years later, they're brought together to solve the mystery of Spooky Island. So a common element with the Scooby-Doo movies is that there's often this urban fantasy aspect to it, where the horror is real and not just a man in a mask. Sure, the catalyst might have been some angry capitalist who wants to steal the land or something like that, but the threat is ultimately fantastical. I think this is a way to sort of stretch out such a simplistic plot over the course of a movie runtime. So let's just go through and then see how well it handles those three elements. When it comes to hijinks, I think this movie does it pretty well. It's very cartoonish and it does stand out as a little odd in a, live action movie, but it is still Scooby-Doo, so I think it's done alright. There are some points that I really kind of enjoy. So the gang, I think it was a good idea for them to be separated out, but they don't really do anything with it and bring them back together, I think, a little too quickly. But they've all been slightly altered from their earlier iterations. Shaggy and Scooby are the most unaltered. They're very wholesome. Velma's been made into this sort of Daria-esque character. She's very dry and sarcastic and kind of done with it all.
Do my friends frighten you?
They would, if it weren't for the holographic projectors. There, and there, and there.
What a smart little one.
I think this was a very reasonable, logical, good way to take the character, Makes sense for her. Fred and Daphne, like I said earlier, they're not very rich in characters originally. They're avenues for the story to happen, so they're the most dated, I would say. They're the most entrenched in the time period. Daphne's very, very Sharpay, in my opinion, and Fred's just kind of douchey. I like the way they interact, but, they're not super engaging. It's live action Scooby-Doo, and it's got like a 30% on Rotten Tomato. What do you expect? And then there's the intrigue, the mystery. It falls pretty flat here. Pretty much at the end of the movie, it's revealed that our big bad is Scrappy. But we don't really have a chance to figure this out for ourselves because there just aren't enough clues. He shows up once in one backstory while Velma was drunk and ranting, talking about, the good old days. When are we, as the audience, supposed to piece together that this is Scrappy wanting to take over the world? There are no hints to it, so we can't really engage with the mystery. In what reality are we supposed to be able to figure that out? Also, if we want to be pointing more to Mondavarius, which it's kind of obvious that he's the villain, I don't really care. He doesn't have enough scenes to build up why I should care that he's the villain. It's a movie, make me care. So that's kind of how it handles those three aspects that I think are important to the series. Not great, but could be worse. It could be a complete departure from how the characters are in the show. But let's just talk about the movie. Is this movie good? No, not really. But I love this movie. It's just fun to watch. Let's just go front to back of this movie and just talk about the weird things that just don't make a lot of sense, because this movie is full of them. First off, so they go through their first little Monster of the Week kind of scene with the Luna ghost or whatever, and then Pamela Anderson crashes the mystery machine through the door of the crime scene? I don't get why this happens. I'm thinking maybe this was an excuse to show off the van, but I don't get it. Why not have all the reporters and fangirls outside of the dangerous crime scene? Also, his motivations are stupid, but it definitely does set the tone for this movie.
Smithers wanted revenge after you refused to go out with him.
How could you, Pamela? I am a lover boy of George Clooney in proportions.
So let's talk about this movie's tone. It is a little bit all over the place. It's not too, disjointed, but it is a little odd. At some points, there are lots of adult humor type jokes, where it's not like kid shows that sneak in an adult joke, but it's just kind of blatant.
Look, I'm a man of substance. Dorky chicks like you turn me on too. Such a compliment. Couldn't get to my body. I didn't know where else to go. I panicked. It's not easy to steer when you're pure spirit. Hey, I can look at myself naked.
Oh, brother.
It definitely has the tone of one of those college age, coming of age kind of teen comedy kind of things. Or even Adam Sandler. No, I would never compare something this enjoyable to watch to Adam Sandler. But you know what I mean. But then you'll have just scene after scene of fart jokes, burp jokes. Just look. This goes on for so long. So it is kind of all over the place. So, moving on with the movie. So, why is this scene, when Scooby is dressed as an old woman, why is this scene framed this way? Look at this.
They don't allow big dogs on the plane.
Are those kids, are they attracted to Scooby? Is that the joke? Maybe I'm just being kind of stupid, but it just seems off. What's up with the luchador? Is this some sort of theme park thing I'm not used to? I've been to plenty of theme parks. Luchadors have not been a part of any of them. I mean, I'm guessing it's part of his act, they're partners, but he's clearly from, Telemundo television. Wait, why would he be here? Is he ever explained? What's his role? Why is he here? Also, this feels very much so not okay. I don't like it.
Excuse me?
What are you doing?
This voodoo hoodoo nonsense, and the only black person in this movie, and what I'm hoping isn't gibberish. That's just 3 strikes. That's just, come on. Also, I feel like I should take this time to comment on the whole using a little person as an evil minion. I mean, that's definitely something to discuss in the larger frame of things, but oof, that would take a long time to talk about. Anyway, do they ever explain this re-education room? So I have to just assume it's so that the demon creatures can act sort of right in society. But there's this scene at the very beginning of the movie showing some of the college students leaving. And clearly, look at this reaction, just watch this. Clearly that's not the right reaction. They show 2 movies in this re-education room. One where it's the bad reaction, one where it's good reaction. Clearly, this aligns way more with that grind your bones into dust reaction. I'm not trying to go all cinema sins on this, but it's just things like that you notice as you watch. Those are some of the weird hiccups that I noticed while watching the movie. I've seen this movie so many times that I can't help but just at this point, just stare at the background characters and just see the weird things that go on. Speaking of weird things, can I talk about the visuals of this movie for just a second before we wrap this up? A lot of times with Scooby, the compositing isn't the best. It's a little weird. I mean, a lot of times the actors are really selling that they're talking to a talking dog here. They're not doing it too bad, This isn't a Looney Tunes Back in Action where you're like, okay, she's talking to no one. This is done pretty alright. But his eyes are so large, and when he touches things, it's all over the place. His eyes. I can't look away from his eyes. They're like the size of dinner plates. Also, Scrappy is terrifying. He's really weird looking puppy form and the monster form. And the monster model. Oh my god, the monster model. It looks so bad. And the other monsters also look bad. Even as a kid, I knew they were really hideous. Although this one part that definitely it made me feel a little unsettled as a child was the face peeling thing with the whole. Yeah, Scrappy's riding around in a robot that looks like Mondavarius. It's just, this movie's hard to explain. It's a little bit. It's like a series of disjointed scenes that all build to one ending, but they aren't really connected in a way you might expect. But yeah, that's Scooby-Doo 2002. Would I recommend this movie? No. Not unless you're a weirdo like me, who enjoys things like Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure and Mean Girls 2, movies that are arguably terrible, but I can't just look away. I enjoy campy, terrible, bad movies. And if you also enjoy those kind of movies, go for it. This is right up your alley. Otherwise, no. Stay away from this. This has earned bad scores on Rotten Tomatoes for a reason.
Brett keeps touching me.